We mentioned that Locke and his predecessor Hobbes in England were the fathers of empiricism, the guys who really turned to the view and really defended the view that knowledge of the external world depends entirely on experience. But these were not the first guys to talk about this, or certainly Locke wasn't, but rather Locke, in a certain sense, was responding to René Descartes. René Descartes is sometimes known as the father of modern philosophy, and one of his most famous works on philosophy is the Meditations on First Philosophy, which we will be taking a look at in some detail. And as I mentioned earlier, the set of objections and replies. Now, Descartes, I said, was a rationalist, so he thinks ultimately knowledge is based on reason. That is, we reason our way to the external world, and he starts out with a view that might be called methodological skepticism. We've heard that skepticism is the view that you can't have knowledge of a certain kind, in this case knowledge of things in the external world. Methodological skepticism is Descartes' way of getting started by saying, I'm going to figure out the strongest reasons that I have for thinking that I don't know anything at all, and once I see what's left over, I'll be able to have a good foundation of all my knowledge. And where does he end up with this? He ends up with his famous statement, I think, therefore I am, cogito ergo sum, in Latin. Where does this come from? We will actually go through the argument, but he finds that he can doubt everything except for that which he knows by introspection, and he answers that, or his answer to skepticism is, in a certain sense, is innate knowledge. It's based on reason. That is, I can see my internal world is evident. I can't doubt that. There aren't any reasons to be skeptical of that. And based on that, he reasons his way out to the external world. How does that? He says, I've got an idea of God, which must have been caused by God. Therefore, God wouldn't be a deceiver, and I know things about the external world. In addition to which, because of his focus on, he thinks, therefore I am, he defends dualism. He's the original defender of dualism, and that he thinks that there are things he knows, mainly that he exists, even though he doesn't know anything about his body. He happens to be very famous in other fields. He was a very famous mathematician, and if you've ever done anything in mathematics with graph papers where you started graphing equations, there's that whole system of what's called Cartesian coordinates, the x a number line, positive infinity to negative infinity, and the y-axis, the up and down axis. That was something that was invented by René Descartes. But please don't hold that against him as we look at his views on epistemology and metaphysics.